I don't know if we're going to get better than that. So,
Yep.
so let's do it.
Yeah.
Just all right, all right, all right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Christian Pincock. I'm standing here with Peter Tracy, who's going to be the next guest on the Music Laboratory series at Vermilion, which will be Thursday, June 15th at 7:30. And we're here to talk about what he's going to do. He's going to be doing a set with Aaron Michael Butler, and there'll also be Tightrope and Scrambler as well. So let's talk about you, your music, your art, your writing, and what you're going to do, and anything else that comes up. So welcome, Peter. Let's just dive right into what are you planning to do on this series?
I think we both think about it as a little bit more of a composition with improvised elements. It'll be a cello and percussion duet, and over a few rehearsals, it's sort of just taken shape through shared musical interests. Our project definitely incorporates ways of using our instruments that we haven't exactly tried in this way before, and certainly not together. We've been trying to figure out how to get different sounds out of our instruments that we haven't gotten before, or try to sort of amplify or bring out certain timbres and sort of sounds from certain techniques that aren't necessarily in the forefront as often, like more of a buzz, more of a rattle, sort of things like that are sort of in the background a lot of the time, trying to bring those to the fore a little bit more.
Can you describe one specifically?
I will be preparing my cello slightly.
Okay. And what is inspiring you to do that?
I mean, just the never-ending search for new sounds, of course, but trying to make the percussion setup and the cello sound as not similar, but be in the same sound world as much as possible.
Okay.
So, for instance, a very breathy cello harmonic sounds rather similar to maybe a bowed cymbal. And those sounds sort of pair very well together and almost blend in a way that can be imperceptible if you manage to land on the right pitch at the right time. And that has happened in rehearsals, and it's very satisfying when it does. And so we've tried to sort of bring more of those convergences out. Ability of the cello to hold long tones is a bit of an illusion. You depending on what you're doing, you might have to use a lot of bow to sustain that sound. No matter how technically proficient you are, you will get a bit of a hiccup in between, right? And we've been thinking about how best to sort of overcome those hurdles. Not really overcome, but just to use those hurdles to our advantage. I think really the starting point for our relationship was probably the Parch Ensemble. Harry Parch was a mid-20th century composer who decided against using equal temperament. He developed his own systems of tuning that use most famously about 43 tones to the octave, although there's some variability there.
That sounds like a lot.
Right. It is a lot.
Compared to 12, right? The notes are not what you would find on the piano.
I think the way that I often describe it to people is in terms of the piano, because that's the most familiar reference, right? You have 12 tones that make up an octave on the piano. We're used to that spacing on the piano. On the chromelodion, which is one of the instruments that Parch built, it's sort of a pump organ that you work the bellows with your feet. You go from low G to a high G. That octave spans most of the keyboard, essentially, right? Because we have 88 keys on the keyboard, right? 43 tones is obviously you're pretty much.
Okay. That's really cool.
Yeah. As an undergrad, just being thrown into that, I mean, it was really a crash course in thinking outside of the Western classical music box. Obviously, he can't fully escape that. There's plenty of aspects to Parch's music that take part in that tradition, in the Western classical tradition, but he certainly tried his hardest to break out into a whole variety of different genres and just sounds that weren't being heard before. The Parch instruments bring people together, for sure. It's a bit of a community in its own right. And I've seen Aaron perform numerous times, and we've had many conversations after concerts over a few beers, and sort of realized that we have a lot of overlap in our musical taste, more specifically in our sort of taste for contemporary composition, certain influences in common. I think Vondelweiser is the main one we've talked about. That composition collective before together. But Aaron and I really admire their work, and that is definitely a big starting point for this collaboration. Okay. What Aaron and I talk about after rehearsals, why we continue to make music, and that sounds very grand. It isn't quite so maybe depressing as that sounds, right? It doesn't necessarily come from a place of
like
I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this stuff, right? I want to give it up, right? It's more of a seriously, why do we make music? Not just as individuals, but collectively as people. What does it bring to our lives? And certain more negative tendencies that has in our culture. For instance, we've talked previously about the idea of being on stage and presenting and sort of trying to express your individual self, to a receiving crowd of listeners, can become very self-centered, can become a very, narcissistic exercise even. And I think we talk a lot about how to get around that and how to make music a more collective exercise, make music a more productive exercise than just individual self-expression, which is sort of the ideal of, at least the romantic classical canon.
So I know you write.
Mm-hmm. I tend to just call myself, with a blanket statement, a music writer, okay. Or maybe even an arts writer at certain points. I have written a few things that deal with painting or just other sort of art criticism, but that's rare. I think a lot of my writing tends to be rather musicological in nature. Specifically, a lot of the writing that I have done and continue to do occasionally for Early Music Seattle. Occasionally, they'll ask me to write something pertaining to a specific concert, and then it will be music of colonial Spain or something like that, and I'll do a deep dive into that music and sort of come up with an interesting facet of that I might write essentially an essay on. I also am a teacher, and I've been talking with my students recently about preparing for their upcoming performances, and a quote, perhaps apocryphal. It comes from this list of 10 rules that John Cage is supposed to have written, and he doesn't really strike me as much of a rules guy, so it's kind of weird. It might not even be by him, but somebody masquerading as John Cage wrote this list of 10 rules, and one of them that has really stuck out in my head is you can't create and analyze at the same time. And that is something I've been telling my students when they as they're preparing to get on stage, right? Is we've been analyzing this piece of music in the practice room, but now you have to let all of that go and just be on stage for even 5 minutes, right? But you have to keep going when you make a mistake. All of these sort of aspects of being a performer that do have to do with music, but have more to do with a mindset and sort of how do you deal with pressure? Are you able to, get into a certain headspace before you get on stage? I think and I think sometimes about music as almost like a spell, not to get, occult with it, that's not really my wheelhouse either, but similar to sort of how a spell is supposed to work, right? Music, you make sound and the world changes around you, even if it's imperceptibly, right? Something has changed by playing music for people, and the people involved have changed, right? And sometimes it's difficult to have faith in that idea that music can change the way people think and the way people relate to each other. I think there's a lot of people make too much of that idea sometimes. People think music can save the world, and I'm not sure I'm quite so convinced. It depends on the context. that said, it does change the world. You know, even if that world is 10 people or just you and the bartender, it changes those relationships, right? And that can also over a longer period of time, over a series of processes, make changes in your life and the lives of others. Even if that one performance seems so insignificant, you know, a musical life can change relationships and the way the world works.
Is really telling us. Okay, so
maybe we have our material then.
we had a little issue with the camera almost falling into this beautiful lake here, Green Lake, up north of Seattle. So I think we're gonna just kind of wrap it up right now.
Sure.
Once again, I'm Christian Pincock. This is Peter Tracy. He's gonna be the guest on the Music Laboratory, and hope you come check it out. It's gonna be great. Thanks for watching.